Welcome to part 44 of Basic Training. Today we're going to cover everything you need to know to play Animal Crossing on 150cc. The recommended build for this course is going to be our usual try-hard build of Waluigi, Bitty Buggy, Azure Rollers, and Paper Glider. For this first part we're going to start off with the simpler strats. When the run begins, drive straight and trick off the bridge, and then follow it up with a right drift to build up a mini turbo around this first turn. After that we're going to do a wide right drift so that we can grab the next 2 coins and build up a super mini turbo around the following turn. To finish up the first bit, we're just going to do a left drift to grab the coin and then drift off the glider to do some glider vectoring. Now, I'll admit, I've become a lot more of a tryhard in recent months, so if your soft drifting is good, then here's how you can up your game a little bit. At the start of the run, move slightly to the left so that you can do a right drift and build up a mini turbo before tricking off the bridge. You then want to land in a left drift to fix your alignment a bit before starting a right drift to build up a super mini turbo around the next turn instead of a mini turbo like we did. The way to do this is to soft drift around the turn until just before this big indentation on the right hand side of the track, and then widen your drift angle after that. Release your super mini turbo and do 2 left hops into a right drift to grab the coin at the same time. After that you'll be able to build up an ultra mini turbo around the right turn just before the glider, at which point we do the glider vectoring just like before. The next step is to grab the 2 coins on the right hand side of the track and then trick off this first log on the right. Then start a left drift and build up a super mini turbo before tricking off the ramp. Now this next bit is fairly complicated, but what you want to do is after building up the super mini turbo, start holding right before tricking off the ramp so that you can start moving away from the off-road. When you land in a left drift and then immediately start holding right. If done properly, you'll hit this little bump on the beach which will further stabilize your line and prevent you from going into the off-road. Then just tighten up your drift a lot around this left turn to build up an ultra mini turbo. Now after releasing it, we're not going to trick off this bridge. Instead, opting to wait until we're in midair before starting to hold down the drift button and left so that we can land in a left drift before doing a right trick off of the ramp. My understanding of what's going on here is that the drift before the ramp actually gives you a bit of a lower trick and pushes you farther forward. Someone who's more knowledgeable than me can correct me down in the comments, but in either case, it is faster. And after that, we're going to mushroom kind of early because we want to chain the mushroom boost into a super mini turbo that we'll have built up. After one more mini turbo, we're on to lap 2. It's fairly similar to lap 1 with one major difference, which is that instead of doing the glider vectoring, we're going to just drive straight off the glider and trick off the fountain below. The reason we didn't do this on lap 1 is that the coins forced us to take kind of an awkward line that made the vectoring just a little bit faster. If you do the vectoring like we did on lap 1, you'll lose probably about 1/10 of a second or so overdoing the fountain trick. One other thing you'll notice is that in the mushroom cut there's this gigantic bastard of a mole named Resetti who pops up out of the ground like right where you generally want to be driving through. If we look back at lap 1, you can see the molehill start popping up out of the ground, and I've gotten it to where it doesn't really impact me too much anymore, but if you hit this thing at a bad angle, you'll fly straight into the rock during the mushroom cut. To avoid him, you may need to take a bit of a tighter line when approaching the mushroom cut, which is slower, but it's a lot safer. Other than that, the only thing to talk about is the current world record, which uses a baby build instead of Waluigi, which allows them to go, and say it with me, balls to the wall in favor of mini turbo over speed. This allows them to do a couple of extra fancier mini turbo strats, but it also makes it so that they can do motion glider instead of tricking off the fountain on all 3 laps. Now before checking out my current personal best, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the seasonal component of the track. There's 4 different versions that you can encounter when playing online. The time trial version is summer, and we've just spent the last few minutes talking about it, so not really going to spend too much more time on it here. In spring, there are a lot more ramps on the track, aside from the beach section where they've been removed. In fall, all the ramps have been removed, which makes it easier to play, but also slightly slower. Winter is very similar to summer, except for the fact that it's basically ice physics for the whole track, and in addition to that, there are snowmen in just the worst spots that make it really hard to navigate around the course. When you're playing online, it's totally random which season you get, but if you want to get some practice in, for example if you're trying to do a speed run or something, then holding down one of the shoulder buttons on the track select screen before actually picking the track will allow you to choose which season you get. You can hold L for spring, R for summer, ZL for fall, and ZR for winter. What's nice about this is that it works in single player whether you're doing versus races or Grand Prix mode, so for example if you hold down R when selecting Crossing Cup, you'll guarantee that you get summer for Animal Crossing when you get to it. Anyways, that's all for the strats. Let's talk about the track a bit more while checking out my current personal best. And by the way, if you found the video helpful so far, don't forget to drop a like and a comment to let me know, since this helps the video get spread to more people, which is by far the best way to help out the channel. Thank you very much. Now, Animal Crossing. It's alright. And that's everything you need to know to play... Wait. What do you mean I still gotta fill more than a minute and a half? Okay, seriously though. Animal Crossing is kind of the definition of middle of the road in terms of track design, and outside of the appropriately named Resetti, who's cost me more runs than I'd care to admit, there's nothing particularly noteworthy about the track itself. Well, aside from the seasons, obviously. Hey, there's something I can talk about. So the seasons do actually make things kind of interesting, because while the track layout itself stays the same in each season, the stuff that's on the track, for example the ramps and the track hazards, change from season to season. You might think that with all the extra ramps that spring is the fastest, but it turns out that these ramps always show up right before a fairly tight turn, which means that tricking off of them would force you to take pretty bad lines. The ironic thing is that the one ramp you'd actually want to be on the track, i.e. the one on the beach, isn't there in spring, meaning that spring is actually really slow in comparison to summer. Fall just removes all the ramps, which actually does make the track a bit more consistent, but again quite a bit slower. And winter, well, winter just sucks, which is kind of unfortunate because it's actually the best looking of the Animal Crossing seasons in my opinion. I don't know about 150cc, but I know that on 200cc you lose upwards of 7 seconds on winter over summer just because of bad ice physics and the awkward lines you're forced to take because of those damn snowmen. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the track for now. It's an okay course for sure, but what do you all think, and what's your favorite season to play on? Let me know down in the comments, and I will catch you all in the outro. And that's everything you need to know to play Animal Crossing on 150cc. After this, we're moving on to Bell Cup, which is the last set of 4 tracks in the entire series, so thank you all very much for taking the time out of your day to do some basic training, and as always, I will see you in the next video.